Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a rule for life that is a serious paradox. It's all about walking this incredibly perilous tightrope between two massive opposing forces. A balance that, when we get it right, is pretty much the only thing that keeps us sane and keeps our world from flying apart at the seams. Let's kick things off with this really provocative idea. What if your sanity, your mental health, doesn't just come from what's going on inside your own skull? What if we've been looking for it in the wrong place all along? The idea here is that a huge chunk of our psychological stability is actually managed by the world and the people all around us. So, to really get a handle on this, let's look at a pretty powerful story about a man whose world had become dangerously small. So, picture this guy. He was profoundly isolated, awkward, lonely, and in his therapy sessions, he was often just silent. But over a long time, he started to reconnect, bit by bit. He joined some clubs, he started to make a few friends, and the change was just, wow. He went from being completely paralyzed with anxiety just trying to order a coffee to getting up on a stage and performing his own poetry and stand-up comedy. I mean, what a transformation. And his journey tells us something so crucial about how our minds actually work. It turns out we literally think by talking, you know? We rely on that constant push and pull of conversation to sort our thoughts out, to figure out what's important and what's just noise. Our friends, our family, even our rivals, they all give us this constant stream of feedback. You know, a nod, a skeptical look, a laugh. It all keeps us calibrated. They're constantly reminding us how to think and how to act in the world. Okay, so this social feedback, it doesn't just happen randomly in a vacuum, right? It works inside these structures, these frameworks that have been tested over millions of years to help us cooperate and solve problems. You've probably heard of them by another name, hierarchies. And let's be really clear here. When we talk about a functional hierarchy, we're not just talking about power and depression. Think of it as a tool. It's a structure we humans use to organize ourselves to solve incredibly hard and incredibly necessary problems. You know, like finding food, building cities, creating peace. And in a healthy system, it's all based on competence. So if these structures are so important, where do you start? Well, you might be surprised to hear that the most valuable place to begin is often right at the bottom. The archetype of the fool here isn't about being an idiot, not at all. It's about being the beginner, the one who's willing to risk looking foolish for a while in order to learn something new and absolutely vital. And really, every single spot in a healthy structure has something crucial to teach us. When you're the beginner, you learn humility. As a peer, someone among equals, you learn that delicate art of reciprocity, of friendship. And as a competent authority, you learn the heavy responsibility of actually solving problems and creating opportunities for other people. And this isn't just some abstract theory. There's this great little story of a young waiter who was pretty resentful of his job. But one day, he just decided to flip the script. He decided to fully embrace being a beginner. He worked as hard as he possibly could with a totally new attitude. And the result? He got promoted 3 times in just 6 months. He found all this opportunity where before all he saw was stuff to complain about. Okay, so after that beginner stage, our relationships with our peers become absolutely critical. Friendships are the training ground where we learn that dance of give and take that keeps us psychologically stable. And get this, the data is crystal clear. Having high-quality social networks literally helps you live longer. It's with our friends that we learn how to be reliable, how to negotiate, and how to see ourselves the way others see us. And then you get to the top of a healthy hierarchy, and there you find true authority. And again, this isn't just about raw power or control. It's about competence that is recognized and followed willingly, because it gets real things done. A good leader doesn't just throw their weight around. They take on the responsibility for the good of the whole group. So, if these structures and these rules are so good for us, if they keep us sane and help society function, why isn't the solution just follow them, no questions asked? You know, why not just be good conservatives and preserve everything exactly as it is? And that right there brings us to the massive paradox at the very heart of this rule. Because the world changes. The solutions that worked yesterday are not guaranteed to work tomorrow. What was once helpful can become stale, corrupt, or just totally blind to new problems. And when that happens, you need a completely different kind of energy. So you've got these two essential impulses,
The conservative impulse, which protects what's working and gives us stability, and the creative impulse, which revitalizes what's broken. We need both, absolutely. But here's the catch. Each one has a dark side. Conservatism can get rigid, corrupt, and creativity can get arrogant, cynical, and totally ungrateful for the very stability that allows it to even exist.
This brings us to a really personal point. It is so easy to criticize the world, right? But it's also dangerously arrogant to do that if you haven't even figured out how to run your own life first. The source mentions a young woman who was just paralyzed by all the world's problems, but she couldn't even manage to get out of bed in the morning. You have to accept being a beginner in your own life before you can effectively try to fix the world. So the ideal personality then, the one that all the great myths and stories are about, is the one that masters this incredibly delicate balance between order and creativity.
And here's the key insight, the secret sauce really. Discipline and creativity are not enemies. Not at all. In fact, discipline is the precursor to any real creative transformation. I mean, think about heroes like Harry Potter or Pocahontas. First, they have to master the rules of their world. Only then do they know how to break those rules for a higher, more moral purpose. True genius, it comes from that combination of raw potential and extreme constraint. There's this incredible line from an ancient text that just nails this idea. Christ sees a man working on the Sabbath, breaking a sacred law, and he says this to him. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you truly understand why a rule is sacred, but you choose to break it in service of a higher good, you're blessed. But if you break it just because you're ignorant or it's convenient, then you're a transgressor and you're cursed. That is a heavy, heavy responsibility.
Okay, so after digging into this deep paradox between order and creativity, between structure and transformation, we finally arrive at the full statement of the rule itself. And it's not just a suggestion. It's a call to be incredibly careful and conscious in how we act.
And here we are. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. This is it, the core principle. And that word carelessly is everything. It's a profound call to hold these two things that seem like opposites, tradition and transformation, in this careful, conscious balance. Don't be a thoughtless critic of either one.
So, the big takeaway, the thing to really let sink in is this. We have to value the past. We have to have gratitude and respect for the order it provides. But at the exact same time, we have to keep our eyes wide open, ready to repair and renew and revitalize what's failing. It's that living, breathing interaction between the two that keeps our world balanced, that keeps us from falling into the trap of too much order or too much chaos.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. In your own life, in your family, your job, your community, where do you draw that line? How do you balance that respect for what's working with your vision for what could be better? This is the existential burden we all have to carry. And finding that line, well, that's the great, difficult work of a lifetime.